Welcome back to another episode of the unofficial Squarespace Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Omari Haribin. I'm your host, the founder of SQSBthemes.com. And if you're in the business of creating products or services for the users of the Squarespace platform, then you're in the right place. That's what this podcast is all about. Each week or each time I sit down and hit record, I'm talking with a different entrepreneur who has done this and who is doing this, and learning from their lessons, learning from their mistakes, their challenges, and hopefully, sharing that with you. So today, and when I say today, I'm actually talking about way back when this pandemic first began. I sat down with Kerstin Martin, who is a designer and teacher, and I've known Kerstin for some time, and we kind of were just catching up and getting to know her story a little bit better and what she's been up to and how she's navigated her career from many things into what she does now. And so, hopefully you get something out of this. I'll catch you on the next go around. Peace. All right, so I'm here with Kerstin Martin, and we're just talking offline. Today is March 30th, 2020, and I typically don't timestamp when these recordings happen, but there's a lot happening in the world right now, so I want to make sure that it's kind of stamped that this is March 30th. So we're in the middle of the Corona pandemic, and I don't know when this episode will be out, but this has all affected us. And Kerstin and I were just talking offline about how this could potentially impact our business as Squarespace designers, trainers, people who make products and services in the web design field and tools for websites. Kerstin, first of all, happy to have you on. It's always good talking with you. So I know a couple weeks ago you put out a scholarship for your trainings, and we're gonna get into your trainings in a moment. But you put out a scholarship for anyone who was having having hard times or going through something where they could benefit. Could you share a little bit about just what prompted you to do that, and what the result was?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this podcast. So, likewise, it's always lovely to chat with you. And interesting times we are in right now,
Yeah.
and I think it's caught all of us off guard a little bit. And even though there are other movies out there, of course, which I never watch, so. It does feel quite surreal still, and
Yeah.
we're still kind of at the beginning of this too, I think, but when it all became very apparent a couple of weeks ago that this is going to be a big thing that's going to
Yeah.
impact people really badly. I was watching the news like most of us, and my husband, who actually works in healthcare, was starting to get more calls in, and I realized, wow, this is actually going to have a big ripple effect and impact on
Mhm.
people. And I don't know, I often I do things very spontaneously, so
Yeah.
I was thinking, gosh, what could I do? Because, one thing became very clear, that people are going to be home more, and that we're
Mhm.
going to work remotely a lot more. And, I teach courses exactly in that. And
Mhm.
so I just thought, you know what? I had been thinking about that anyway. And I'm really sorry. My cat is scratching the door. He's not
Uh,
going to stop until I let him out. Hang on 1 second. Sorry about
no
that.
worries. No worries.
Yeah, I was debating whether I should leave him in my room or not. So anyway, and it's something that I had been looking at anyway, to start offering scholarships. And
Yeah.
so I figured, well, you know what? I'll just offer 25 scholarship places to 2 of my courses, one on how to build a website in Squarespace and one on how to build a business as a Squarespace web designer. So like the
Mm-hmm.
perfect package, for someone who wants to start a home-based business.
Yep.
And I put it out there. I just sent it to my newsletter and put it on Instagram. And within 24 hours, I had 75 applications.
Wow.
And I stopped then, and
Yeah.
so I spent a good couple of days reading everything. I mean, people really poured their hearts out.
Yeah.
And it was quite heartbreaking, I have to say. I opened up the scholarship to people who were directly affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
And and it was already starting. I mean, this was like 2 weeks ago, and it had already started. People had already
Yeah.
lost jobs, lost clients, canceled contracts. And there were quite a few people from Australia who had already been affected by the bushfires.
Right.
And
Yep.
now this was just like knocking them over. And
Yeah.
so in the end, I couldn't actually decide on 25. And so I just gave 75 scholarships. I gave them to
Right. Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, it just seemed like the right thing to do. And it was
Mm-hmm.
interesting, actually, because someone reached out to me and said, well, but did you actually calculate how much like lost income this is now for you?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, no, actually, I didn't calculate that, but I have a rough idea. But um, but also, most of these people would not have bought my course anyway because they
Right.
simply wouldn't at this point have been able to afford it. So I do not look at this at all
It's
as
not a
lost
loss at
income.
all.
No,
Yeah.
it isn't. It's a way for me to help someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt this is the right time to do it. So
Yeah.
and just judging by the feedback that I've had as well. After giving the scholarships, it's actually already helping people, which is pretty
Yeah.
amazing. So spontaneous idea, but I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
It kind of set the tone for me actually for entering this period of uncertainty and change. In
Mm-hmm.
a bizarre way, because it really made me realize I want to help where I can, because I'm in a fortunate position because I have a husband who works in healthcare. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically COVID HQ over here because his company makes ventilators.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they are working around, and he's like their global clinical specialist. So he's been
Mm-hmm.
talking to UK government officials, and it's like 24/7 for him. He has to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning for calls. He has calls at midnight,
Wow.
and because they're trying now to ramp up production. And so it's kind of been interesting actually to have this like behind the scenes
Yeah.
glimpse into that. And but so his job is safe, for now. And we so I just feel, for me, this is going to be a lot of what I'll be doing, is like, how can I help people through this as
Yeah.
well, obviously, while still
Mm-hmm.
running my business. I mean, I
Yeah.
still have a business. I still need paying customers, to run my business.
Yep.
But at the same time, I also want to help more too.
Yeah, and I think it. I mean, it's like you said, like what you already offer as your business is in alignment with the need right now, which is how do I do this stuff myself?
Exactly.
If I can't afford to pay someone, or I think it also opens up opportunities for the people who possibly have been creating websites for people and now they've perhaps lost their clients. Um, I think the hidden opportunity there is, well, what else can you offer people other than your direct one-to-one service that could still help them, get to their next level, or kind of like what you've done, basically, which is
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you on, is just to kind of share what your particular journey or transition was from, being a full-time Squarespace website designer to now having an education-based business.
Yeah, that's I love talking about this stuff. So, and again, it wasn't really something that was planned. I don't have a 5-year plan or 10-year plan. Even how I got into Squarespace design actually by accident. We had just moved from the UK to the Pacific Northwest. We are here just south of the Canadian border. And a friend had asked me, to create a website for her in Squarespace for her business. And because I'd been doing it for myself for for 10 years, so I've always been dabbling with web design. So I did that and it was a huge success, and then someone else asked me, oh, can you do that for me as well? And so rather than look for a job, which was the original intention when we moved here, I thought, maybe I can start my own business and become a Squarespace designer. And you know what? It just kind of worked out. It all fell into place. I had clients like pretty much nonstop, and then I grew my business from that, and I really loved it. And to be honest, at the time, I mean, I certainly didn't know everything that I know now, so I learned a lot along the way as well. And which is why I always tell people, don't worry if you don't know everything yet. Just start, And so I did that for a couple of years. And then I took someone's online course she was a online teacher. She was one of the very first online teachers. Her name is Susanna Conway. And she has a course called Inside Story, where she basically opens up, the lid on her business and gives us a glimpse inside and shares everything that she had done to grow an online business. And I thought, maybe I could create a course as well. Especially a lot of people and you know what that's like. People constantly reached out to me asking me about Squarespace. Oh, how do I do this? I need help with that. And so I thought, well, I'll create a course on how to build a website in Squarespace. And I was probably one of the first people to do that, I don't know, almost 4 years ago. But I was still designing as well at the same time. And my courses, I mean, it grew slowly because I'm not really into the hustle marketing. So it grew very organically just through, groups I was in and through my own community, that I had around me. And so I was kind of doing both. But then over time, over the following 2 years, I added 5 more courses, including a course on how to host an e-course on Squarespace. And then, of course, I got to a point by the end of 2018 where it just was all getting a bit much for one person, because I was still web designing for clients and I was running my e-courses. So I had to make a decision. Either I had to get help, but I like to work mostly. I mean, I do collaborate with people. I love actually collaborating with others. But I didn't want to hire someone. I didn't want to, build a team or anything like that. I was very clear on that. So I knew something had to give. So I decided, okay, for 2019, I'm just going to experiment. I'm always experimenting in my business.
You and me both.
I know. So I decided to stop designing websites, although in reality I still design 1 or 2 a year, because there's always someone who still wants me to do a website, and it helps me actually keep my finger on the pulse, and so basically I teach what I still practice as well. And so 2019 was my most successful year. And actually my second, 6-figure year, because that's what they always talk about, the elusive 6 figures. And so I love it. I mean, I do really like teaching. When I was in my corporate career, I used to do a lot of workshops. I was a course facilitator there as well. So I have done teaching and training before, and I actually also teach Squarespace at our local college here too. And so it was kind of a slow transition. I didn't just stop one thing one day and then continue with the other thing the next day. I did both for quite a long time, actually.
So I'm just going to rewind real quick. So had you not, started your own business and you went to look for a job, what would that have looked like for you?
Um, oh, you mean like what kind of job or
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I have no idea. I'm one of those people. I call myself a Jill of all trades. I mean,
yeah.
I've done so many things in my life. I was, I've worked in hotels. I was a flight attendant. I've been an IT project manager. I've been a registrar at an international school. I was a college secretary
Oh, wow.
at a college in New England. I've managed a hotel, and so I've worked in finance. I've done corporate sales.
Yeah.
I've done so many different things, and so to be honest, to me it was always, well, I kind of see what's out there, and if
Mm-hmm.
anything kind of tickles my fancy, I'll apply for that.
Mm,
And my mom actually always used to say, I can't believe how lucky you always are that you always get jobs.
yeah.
It's weird. I mean, I was in my early 50s, so clearly, I don't know, maybe I was a little overconfident for someone that age, to think I could get a job, but
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually never been a problem for me. I
Yeah.
mean, I became a registrar of that school in my late 40s,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't know, so I don't really know what I would have done. I just know something would have come up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I get it. And it sounds like you might thrive off of variety as well.
yeah, well, and it's very interesting actually that you say that, because I had a really good conversation once with a friend who is a therapist, and he said, you know what, Kirsten, I think you've been an entrepreneur all your life,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Yeah.
only became an entrepreneur in my early 50s, and
Mm-hmm.
he said, I think you've been that all of your life, and that is why you've done so many different jobs, because that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of your entrepreneurial gig. You start
Yeah.
it up, you bring it to a really good place, and that's so true. I always left my jobs when they were in a really good place, and so I always left my ship in order, when I left,
Right. Right.
and I thought, wow, yeah, that is probably very true,
Yeah.
and that's probably why when I started my own business, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, I get anxious, I worry about stuff. I sometimes really miss the security of a regular paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
and not having to worry about everything and not having to make every decision myself.
Yeah.
I do miss that sometimes, but at the same time, this just feels so natural to me now. I could
Yeah.
not imagine ever going back to an office job.
I this morning I was on my LinkedIn and I saw a bunch of people, sharing like a lot of jobs that were actually hiring right now. And I was kind of like curious for like a split second, and then I felt this feeling in my stomach that was just like, no, you
Oh
can't.
God.
And I mean, I feel you. Like I've always been entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I'm actually in the zone that I'm really supposed to be in.
Yeah. In your
Where
element.
even though, yeah, in my element, whereas, even though there are many times where I craved a job.
Yeah.
But now I feel kind of relieved that, I am able to make these decisions and kind of run an online business that meets my lifestyle needs, which, my lifestyle is kind of my priority. And
Yeah.
if I go back to work a regular job, I would lose that completely,
Yeah.
which is something I value a lot. So,
Yeah. It's actually funny that you mention lifestyle, because that reminds me, many, many, many years ago, probably a couple of decades ago, I was actually made redundant from one of my jobs. And as part of the
mhm,
redundancy package, they offered us some training. And as part of this training, they did these assessment, like personality type assessment
yeah,
kind of thing. And it was Edgar Schein's career anchors. It's funny, I still remember that. Edgar Schein's career anchors, like a really old kind of system.
Mm-hmm.
And my career anchor was lifestyle, just what you just mentioned.
Oh, wow.
And, so it told me that my most important motivation in my professional life is lifestyle. And at the
Yeah.
time, that allowed me to actually pursue a job that I normally wouldn't have pursued, because I normally would have thought, nah, I don't know if that's really a good fit. But it was a
Mm-hmm.
perfect fit for the lifestyle that I wanted, which at the time was to
Yeah.
travel. This was a job that included a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I totally get that. I think
Yeah.
that's, knowing that about yourself is actually like a key element, of our professional lives, if you want.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, just trying different things and going on this entrepreneurial has taught me more about myself than anything else
Mm,
probably could have or would have. And one of those things, and I know we share this because I posted it some time ago, and I remember you responded. Um, One of the things I discovered was that I'm an Enneagram Type 9, which
yes.
I wish I could like give share the synopsis with the audience. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about it, but that's another thing that was something that was kind of revealing to me about the way that I worked with people. So it wasn't just like how I worked; it was like, okay, how what's the way that I engage and interact with people, and how does that affect everything else? And so I know that's a big part of your business as well, is just that self awareness, and then making yourself available for the people who would benefit most from your particular personality style.
Absolutely. And I remember that actually. And it's funny also that you mentioned this, because I love the Anagram. The Anagram was actually a real eye opener for me when I first discovered it about 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And out of all the personality typing systems, that was the one that resonated with me the most. I mean, I just, at the time, there were only two books that you could get on the
Oh, right.
Enneagram. Now you can get like a lot. It's
I
become
know.
very
Yeah.
popular. But at the time there wasn't really a lot of literature out there. So I devoured those, and like a type 9, I completely recognize myself in that. And it's funny because I actually, literally, I'm just like a couple of days away from posting a blog post where
Hmm.
a friend of mine who's an Enneagram specialist, she is writing a guest post on, what kind of designer are you for your Enneagram type.
Mm. Yeah,
So
that's interesting.
yeah, so that should be a lot of fun actually to see
W-
that, and I
Yeah,
think,
go ahead.
no, go on.
Well, you just reminded me of something because I've been interested in it in that in the context of um, like sales and marketing, because
Mm,
I find there's certain ways to market that just really don't suit me and have never suited me.
yeah.
And I tried to kind of map out my own kind of framework for understanding it. But yeah, the fact that you bring that up is like a design. How does this play into your role as a designer? I think is
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. Well, actually, that would be another good topic. Maybe I'll get her to write that as well. How do you
Yeah.
market? How do you market? How do you do sales? As for your Enneagram type. I love that.
Hmm.
Actually, that's a really good
Yeah.
idea. And I think you're right. Knowing yourself is very important when you run your own business, and knowing how how you share your skills, your information, how you are with your customers, and the other thing, apart from the Enneagram Type 9, I'm a what they call an HSP, highly sensitive person.
Hmm.
And now I'm not an introvert. Often people mix those two things up or think one is the other. So I'm actually not an introvert, but definitely highly sensitive in, like I get easily overstimulated, or,
Hmm.
which is why the hustle mentality, that is so like rampant online, has never ever appealed to me. I
Hmm.
just, if you hustle to me, even if you have a product that I like, but if I get 10,000 emails from you within 2 days, I'm sorry. I can't,
Yeah.
with like 10,000 countdown clocks and all of that, that's, it works. I mean, I know it
Hmm.
works, and I, if that works for you, then that's absolutely fine. But
Yeah.
I just know that for me, it's something that doesn't work for me. Does it mean I will not have $1 million business as a result? Probably, but I'm okay with that. you know,
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel you, and I mean that's the thing. As long as you know what works for you, I feel
yeah.
like that's the thing. Because because it's easy. Like in my first exposure to like this whole world of online business, I was overwhelmed,
Mm,
voluntarily overwhelmed, I should say,
yeah.
with just how much there was out there. But at the same time, it took me stepping away from all of those different webinars and all those different kind of content streams of content, just to like get to the basics of like, all right, put all the tactics aside, put all the strategies aside, like what's actually happening here, like what is really the foundation of my business, what's the kind of relationship that I want my customers to have with this business, and then just going from there. And for me it helped to remove a lot of those barriers, or I
Yeah.
guess you can call them like limited beliefs of
Yeah.
what something is supposed to look like or what it should be, and just allowing it to just be what it is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you've mentioned a key word as well, relationships.
Yeah.
I'm a relationship person, always have been actually. And I think I would probably find it quite overwhelming if I had like hundreds of thousands of followers, because you can't obviously
Hmm.
have a relationship with everyone there.
Hmm.
And but I like I know a lot of my students, and I think it's also what I like about you, when I first discovered you online and your group, for instance, because people have relationships in there, and
Yeah.
you nurture those relationships as well. And and to me that feels, it's much more, for an Enneagram type 9, it's a much more peaceful way of doing business.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. And that's kind of my definition of business is, a system of valuable transactional relationships.
Yeah, that's very
You
well
know,
put. Yeah.
and if it's a scalable system, then two thumbs up. But you got to have a system for developing relationships and keeping them and maintaining them. And it's funny because I think I have probably done that better professionally than I have personally.
Ah,
Uh,
interesting. Would your wife agree with that?
she definitely would. She definitely would. I had this kind of, I don't know if it's a joke to other people, but to me it's funny that I keep my customers closer than my friends.
Ah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that's like my inside joke with her, just because that's just what it is.
Well, but I think the thing is, we have our customers, but I think because of how we interact these days and how we engage with
Yeah.
each other, it does actually become quite intimate,
Hmm.
and also I think this whole, because we're like 24/7 engaged with each other,
Yeah.
and I certainly feel like I have online friends. I mean, these are people I've never met in real life, but
Hmm.
we Skype, so we do see each other when we engage, but we just click,
Hmm.
and so yeah, I don't know, it's just really interesting how, I mean, I still think though how you do things, overall in your life. That's how you get to do it in your own business too.
Yeah. True. True. True.
So
True.
it is probably still a reflection of who you are as a person. Someone
Yeah.
who values relationships.
Yep. Yep. And try to put people first.
Yeah,
Um, and that's the thing about, I like about having an online business is it gives you that freedom to work with so many people, all over the world.
I love that.
I mean, my plugin partner, Dimitri, um, like we've never Skyped, you know, and we've been working together for almost 3 years now, and we
Yeah,
have a great relationship. But it's just it's if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't know him. We wouldn't have been able to build this part of the business together.
yeah,
But even so, we've been able to do that with like, uh, I guess you can call it a version of social distancing.
Yeah, totally.
Because one day I'm gonna fly over to the Ukraine and I'm gonna get him on the show so that he can
Yeah,
speak.
that'd be great. That would make a great story, actually.
Yeah, it
But
would. It would.
but you're right. I think what we've been doing as online business owners, we already do social distancing. Although I don't like the term social
Term.
distancing, I call
Yeah, I
it
don't like it
actually
either.
physical distancing.
Yeah.
Because I think socially we actually still want to be connected. And but so I think again that's why as an online business owner it's maybe a little bit easier for us because we already do all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I saw something recently. I saw an ad for social distancing marketing.
Of
Yeah.
course. Of course.
I was like, wow,
Uh,
okay. No one's like waiting or,
uh,
it's amazing how quickly people are able to like come up with things. I
oh yeah,
think in the midst of crisis, you always see so much creativity
yeah,
that
yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of creativity, a lot of people trying to take advantage of the situation too, of course, So
Hmm.
I'm not so keen on that, but I do love how people are. I mean, what did I see the other day? Someone who had a hair salon and she is now making color kits at home that she sends out to her customers and
Hmm.
selling gift cards and doing online tips for how to style your hair when maybe you haven't been able to go to the hairdresser for a while.
Hmm.
So really creative, and it's that is actually, and that is kind of what I try to focus on as well. There's enough scary
Hmm.
news out there,
Yep.
and I really try to focus actually on those maybe that's also a type 9 thing, probably. So, you know, but
Yeah, trying to find peace in the midst of
that's
chaos.
right, harmony. But why not? Why not? I mean, we need positive stuff too, especially now. And
Yeah.
and that's the kind of stuff, for instance, also that I share online. I don't share all
Hmm.
the scary shit. I mean,
Yep.
enough people do that already. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's very true. People get very creative in times of crisis.
And I feel like we've come full circle with this conversation, because now I want to know about your courses specifically, because I I think there is I think right now we're kind of in a, like you said, we're in a fortunate position where our lives, our businesses aren't that affected,
Yeah.
or aren't as affected by this as maybe a brick and mortar or some more mainstream businesses. Um, what I don't know how to phrase this question because none of us are oracles, but what is something that is in your courses that you think people need right now?
Well, I mean, you're right. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't really know how this is going to pan out. But I feel, the trend is already there, that more people are going online, and there's going to be more and more online business owners and not just
Hmm.
one-on-one services like web design, but also, online courses, online teaching,
Hmm.
I mean, that's already huge.
Yeah.
And I feel this is all just going to get even bigger. And so I obviously, I mean, everything I do is Squarespace related, and but from helping people who maybe don't have the money right now to hire a designer, because of this crisis. They could take a course on how to create a website themselves. I just
Hmm.
launched a brand new course, and I literally finished it all last night, called Squarespace Express, where I
Nice.
show people how to build a website on Squarespace's latest version, 7.1, in 2 days. And you know what? You can actually do it in 2 days. When I first
Wow.
started, advertising it, I thought, can you really do that in 2 days? And you know what? With 7.1, you can.
Yeah.
After my initial resistance to this new version, I love it now. It's
Yeah.
actually reawakened my love of design. It's really funny because I did resist it quite a lot in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that is the latest thing that I offer. I also have a course on an SEO course to help people boost their ranking, specifically also for Squarespace. What are all the things you can do in Squarespace to optimize your website?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, also Google Search Console and other tips as well. And that's actually been one of my most popular courses. And and actually, some of the people who've taken it have outranked me now.
I've,
So,
I've even taken it, so
oh well, there you go.
I need to give
So,
you a testimonial.
yeah, that'd be great. Actually, thank you. Then I have I guess my flagship course is BizBox, which is all about kind of like that inside story course I mentioned earlier from Susanna Conway. BizBox
Mm-hmm.
opens the door to my business. I'm very transparent in there. Here are all the things I've done to create a successful business as a web designer. Because I did very,
Mm-hmm.
very well as a web designer too, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I did have my first six-figure year when I was still a web designer. And
Mm-hmm.
so I share like everything, like tools, strategies, templates, all my experience, my processes that have allowed me to build a stable business as a
Mm-hmm.
designer. And so it allows people to basically shortcut a lot of stuff. Because when I started, there was nothing like that out there. There was no
Yeah.
one really that I could go, like even the small business bureau, that was more for like brick and mortar businesses, not for
Mm-hmm.
online businesses. So this is kind of like a blueprint for an online business if you want.
Yeah.
And then my finally I also have a course, if you don't want to do the one-on-one services, on how to host an e-course on Squarespace. I've been doing that for 4 years now, and using Squarespace for my online courses.
Mm-hmm.
And something really nice is on the way, coming in that regard, but I'm not really allowed to talk about it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you know what I mean, and I don't
Oh yeah,
really,
yeah, 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 yeah.
but there's some exciting things coming, with regards to that. And
Yeah.
so I basically show people, because right now Squarespace it's not a teaching platform, right? It's not a membership
No.
system. So I show people how to basically tweak the Squarespace platform to be able to host content on there and password protect it, and to automate the whole sequence of when someone signs up and to get the password automatically.
Right.
Um, and so that's actually probably my most popular course. Um,
Yeah, I think I get a lot of your students from that course who buy the
yeah, yeah.
sidebar
Well, yeah,
plugin.
because we couldn't do what we're doing without your sidebar plugin.
Hey.
So that is like hands down, the best plugin ever. And yeah. So so those, so all of these courses really help people to create a really great online presence for their
Hmm.
businesses, and maybe to pivot what they do in their own business life. Maybe
Hmm.
now is a good time to look at, well, what can I do to start a home-based business, because that's what
Hmm.
this is all about. Whether you teach something online or whether you start a design business, you will be able to do it from home. And I really feel that we're going to have a lot more of that,
Hmm.
going forward. And, and this is just a great way to kind of get a head start with that,
Yeah.
and I have all my courses are on sale, including my bundles, and I'm going to keep the sale open indefinitely at the moment until we kind of see how things pan out. That's like one other small way that I hope,
Yeah.
will help people. And, and I will, once I kind of get myself organized, once I get this next web design website done that I
Hmm.
have to work on now, I'm also going to start offering more scholarships as well.
Nice. Nice. Well, Kirsten, thank you so much for sharing. It's a pleasure speaking with you as usual.
Same
And
here.
and for our listeners who hopefully you can get a jump start on something using some of Kirsten's materials. Remember to take your time. These things don't happen overnight. It's a long, kind of long journey,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
one
and
that's
and
worth it.
and all my courses are self-paced, so you can do
Perfect.
everything in your own time and you have lifetime access to all material.
There you go. There you go. Perfect way to end it. Well, thanks again, Kirsten.
Thank you so much.